So what are the international implications of relations between the United States and its traditional allies and foes at the G20? Joining me is National Security and Foreign Policy Strategist, Joel Rubin. He's a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Legislative Affairs under the Obama administration and currently president of the Washington Strategy Group. And also on our panel, Lester Munson. He's a former Deputy Assistant Administrator at the U.S. Agency for International Development under the Bush administration. He now works on U.S. foreign policy and national security issues at the firm of BGR Government Affairs. So the introduction is almost as long as my first question. So his speech in Warsaw, a lot of analysts saying it harkens back to his inaugural address, carnage in America. This time, the fundamental question of our time is whether the West has the will to survive. He likes to talk in these rather stark terms. I want to get your sense. What did you make of the speech?
I actually thought it was one of Trump's better speeches, maybe his best speech. And I think it reassured a lot of people, perhaps mostly in the Republican Party, that the policies he's going to pursue on the international stage are fairly well in the mainstream of where the party is. He may talk about them a little bit differently. He doesn't like to use the word democracy. He doesn't like to use the phrase human rights as often as some of the rest of us, but he'll talk about our values and our community and our ties to our allies. And I think to that extent, the speech was actually a terrific step. He reinforced the U.S. commitment to Article 5 of the NATO treaty, which is a very important thing. He should have done that the last time he was in Europe. I'm glad he did it this time. And also, he shook hands with Angela Merkel earlier today, so that's also a very good step.
We're on a good trajectory. Yes. And getting back to the Article 5, that was actually in the speech last go-round, and even his national security team, according to reports, they were blindsided it was lifted out of it. So your sense about this speech?
Well, my sense is that from the Democratic perspective, that when President Trump speaks about Western values, the key question is he living up to them himself? And there is deep concern about President Trump's commitment to the rule of law. He is not standing up to Russia and their involvement in our democratic election last year. He continues to deny that it really was Russia and undermined our own intelligence community's assessments from a foreign country, which is problematic. And then he also attacked the media as well, the American media, from a foreign country. And so it raises many concerns. And many people will look at the speech and say, yes, there were some words that we can hold on to, but really the tone is the same as it was at that inauguration.
So, Lester, is he stuck in neutral? To his point, he doesn't really want to go there about Russia and meddling, says maybe, sort of, it could have been other people. And then, again, going back to the news media, it seems like he keeps getting stuck on these particular issues. Although, as you said, at least this time he was moving in a different direction.
I'm not sure the Russian meddling issue is all that great of a concern to American voters. And I think President Trump, for whatever his flaws may be, has a pretty good sense of where the American voters are. And so I think...
But does it embolden Putin right before a meeting to say, well, maybe, I don't know?
Look, I don't think so. President Poroshenko from Ukraine was in town just a few weeks ago. He had a meeting with Trump. The fact that he was able to meet with Trump before Putin is a big deal for Ukraine. You're looking at greater U.S.-Ukrainian cooperation. The U.S. is talking about coal exports to Ukraine. The Trump administration has taken tough steps on sanctions against Russia. I actually think that beneath all of the rhetoric and all of the talk about the meddling in the election, which is not an illegitimate issue, but beneath all that, the real policy has actually been fairly strong. The president, for all of the distractions on the tweets and everything else, has a very good national security team in place at state, at defense, at the NSC. And I think you're seeing their influence become greater and greater as we go along here. And maybe this administration is a few months behind where another administration might be right now, but they're going in the right direction.
Another administration, you worked in the Bush administration, of course, George W. Bush saying, I looked into this man's eyes, I know his soul. Putin has had a tendency to charm presidents in the past. And of course, we knew that Obama was going to have a reset. That didn't happen. Tomorrow's meeting, it's going to be Putin and Lavrov, two veterans, KG veterans, sitting opposite of Donald Trump and Rex Tillerson, who don't really have the resumes when it comes to foreign policy. Joel, you used to work over at the State Department. Concerns about that?
Well, Vladimir Putin is playing the long game, and what he's doing is over time has been undermining American confidence in our elections, but also global confidence in the United States. And it's essential that President Trump tomorrow lays out a very clear line that Russia, you cannot meddle in our elections, and you cannot do it in Eastern Europe as well. You cannot do it in Ukraine. But behind the scenes, the Trump administration is trying to weaken sanctions against Russia that were just passed in the Senate. So it's not clear that he is going to stand up, and that sends a message to our allies. And that also implies that he may not really have a strong agenda for tomorrow, and that's the big concern. What are our core objectives for this meeting? First and foremost, why are we having a senior bilateral meeting at the presidential level with Vladimir Putin when the questions on the table are not resolved? And then second, what do we want Russia to do? Is it to just help us with Syria, help us with Ukraine, or is there more? We're not clear that we're going to see results that really advance our security goals at this meeting.
And Lester, he does have a tendency to shoot from the hip. Would it be better if he had a team there to help him with this sort of thing, or do you think it's better 2-on-2 like this?
Well, Tillerson's going to be with the president. Tillerson's done deals in Russia that the Russians complained were too favorable to ExxonMobil. So while Trump and Tillerson are relatively new to the world of diplomacy and politics, I actually have a feeling they're pretty good at looking a negotiator in the eye and taking their measure. I take Joel's point that Putin is playing a long game, and he's played it very well. I think he played both the Bush administration and the Obama administration about as well as anyone could. At least with Trump, we may end up in the same place, but I think we should all be open-minded about what the outcome could be here. The president has done a good job from a negotiating standpoint of leaving open.
What could the outcome be?
If there's greater cooperation on Syria, and you could see, and my understanding is that kind of below the radar, you know, the discussions between our military and the Russian military in Syria and in the fight against ISIS have actually been very constructive, and there's some trust that is building there. If we can build on that and come towards a peace plan that both the United States and Russia can support, that would be a huge win for Trump, really for the world. And that might be a bridge too far right now, but at least the president is pursuing that, and I think we should give him the chance to do that.
Joel, you got about 20 seconds. You think that's likely?
No, I don't think it's likely tomorrow.
What do you see as the outcome?
I do see as the outcome statements of desire to have better cooperation in the future and a punt the details to some later point in time. I do agree with Les. It's crucial that we get control of Syria. Russia and the United States both have to figure out how to do that. They have to pull in the region as well. But tomorrow, I don't think we'll get that specific.
All right, Joel and Lester, thanks so much for your observations. Appreciate it.